Hey guys, so today we're going to keep looking at the Cold War and we're going to focus in on competition in Europe. So, following World War II, the US and the Soviet Union competed for influence in Europe. The US and its allies formed NATO, that stands for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. All of the countries you see in blue are part of NATO, that's the US's alliance. The Soviet Union and its satellite states, so the countries that supported it, formed the Warsaw Pact. You can see all of their countries in red. Why do you think the Soviets and the Americans both formed groups of allies? So one big problem with this whole system was the city of Berlin. When they had split up Germany, the Allies split it up so the British, the French, and the Americans controlled the West and they combined their three parts, and the Russians controlled the East. But Berlin, the capital of Germany, was in the East, so they also split that city into Western and Eastern parts, with the Western parts being controlled by the US and its allies, and the Eastern parts being controlled by Russia. And for a long time, there was a railroad that ran from the little part of Western Berlin over to the rest of West Germany. But in 1949, the railroad from Berlin to the rest of West Germany got cut off. So, for the Americans and their allies to keep supplying the part of Berlin they controlled, they had to use airplanes to supply it. So while the trains were not running, the Allies continued to supply their little part of West Berlin using airplanes. Why did America and its allies have to use airplanes to resupply their part of Berlin? So after a year of this, the Russians get fed up and they let the railroad open back up. But then in 1961, they build a wall around the western part of Berlin. The wall divides the city and it keeps people from the East Berlin, from the Russian controlled part, from sneaking to West Berlin, the American controlled part, and freedom. Why do you think people would want to sneak out of the communist controlled East Berlin? All right, guys, that's it for today. When we meet in class, I'll show you some of these other videos that explain a little more about this. Anyway, talk to you guys in later. Bye.